You're listening to Radio Cosmos.
All night long.
Bravo! My compliments, little lady.
Commercial!
Break for 30 seconds.
Get to transmission.
You are now listening to BaaD Radio.
Hello and welcome to BaaD Radio. BaaD stands for Business at a Distance. This is a show about local businesses and business networking. We are here in the News Radio WFLA Orlando studios from 11 a.m. to noon, and you'll hear this show this Sunday. I am your host, Angela Smarito, and we have a very special guest, Zach Edler with Impact Electric. So let's give him a hand.
Good morning, everyone.
So I do have some news. Zach was the very first guest we've ever had on BaaD Radio, half a decade ago. Mm-hmm. And so I have decided to put the show on hiatus for a little bit. So I called Zach and I was like, hey, so I'm going to do a last show, and it would be an honor if he would be my first guest and my last guest. So he was like, absolutely. So thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about the last 5 years and everything that's happened in those 5 years. I meant the good, the bad, the ugly, everything, but mostly good.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, even when, you had this idea to start this, it was such an unknown time.
Right.
And
it's COVID.
Right. And such a exciting idea that you had, to do this. And,
well, the whole story is that the day that we all got sent home, right. I don't know how it was for you being a business owner, but for us, it was like D-Day, March 23rd or 22nd or whatever, where Disney closes, the whole world closes down, and we get sent home.
Right.
And I'm driving home, and I'm like, the hell is going on?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I've got referrals, because at that time, you and I were kind of like in the referral world.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm like, I'm going to create a Facebook page, because I was thinking of ways of communicating with all, but group chats suck. So don't ever put me in your group chat, okay? Because
as soon as I get put in one, I put silent alert on it, because if not, it just goes bonkers.
I know.
Yep.
And I was like, I'll create a Facebook page, and this was before Facebook groups were like a dime a dozen.
Right.
Because now there's a million of them.
Well, and you really did that before we knew what it all meant and what the direction was of all of us being home and what our new reality was going to be at that time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I got home and I told my husband, I'm like, I think I'm going to make a Facebook group, for networking. And I talked to my friend Maggie Melville, who worked with me at JVC Broadcasting at the time, and she's always had a knack for coming up with names.
Right.
And so her and I were debating against business at a distance or business from a distance.
Right.
And so I decided on business at a distance. And Tom made me a graphic. And that's the one thing that is so awesome about having a graphic designer as a husband, is that he can make anything look good. And so I created that group. I did the intro. I invited you. Actually, no, I think you and I met through business at a distance.
I want to say that we met through that, and then we started running into each other around town.
Right.
We ran into each other at the gym and stuff like that.
Exactly.
And then we got to know each other, what business at a distance was about, the Facebook, what the idea was behind it, and what you were wanting to do. And, then it turned into this.
Yeah. And so business at a distance as a group. So the next day, I invited like 50 of my networking partners,
right.
and this was before BNI. And I was in a networking group, but it wasn't BNI. And of course, that didn't make it through COVID. BNI was the first group to pivot to Zoom,
right.
and they made it fast. So
right.
they did a good thing.
Oh yeah, because I joined my BNI group. I had one in-person meeting. And then we transitioned right into the all Zoom at that time. All the chapters were Zoom at that time.
Well, I started a chapter that was during Zoom.
Okay.
So I never even met half the people in my chapter in person.
Okay.
But when I woke up the next morning and 50 members was all of a sudden 200 members, and this is when I was letting it open invite.
Right.
And I saw two people exchanging a conversation, and then all of a sudden I realized that they closed business with each other. There's a photographer and somebody else, and I'm like, well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so so I started writing testimonials, and I wrote a testimonial for Liberty Property Inspections, and so before BaaD Radio came along, it was business at a distance,
Right.
and so I got to watch it grow and grow and grow, and it's really exciting.
Right.
It was it was exciting to see people posting in there and getting business.
Right. Right.
And so that was so much into that. And then I had a meeting with Rick Hall, and I don't know if you ever met Rick Hall with Ground Up Property Services.
I think the first or second time I came on I think it was the second time I came on the show, he was on with me.
Okay,
I want to say.
at the other station?
Yes. Yep.
And so he and I were sitting at Starbucks in Longwood, and he was like, you should create your own show. And I was like, well, I have to have sponsors. And, I'm like, and I've always been afraid of public speaking.
Right.
And he was like, I'll sponsor you. And I was like, you would? And then later that day, I was driving to Frogger's in Apopka, and I called you. And I told you about the idea.
Yeah.
And you were like, I'll sponsor your show.
Yeah.
And then we met at Mellow Mushroom. We talked. You wrote me a check. I still have the check.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you don't frame it.
Right.
And
right.
I took a picture of it. I was like, this is going to happen.
Right.
And JVC gave me the hour. And when you were like I said, my first guest, and I had no idea what I was doing. And what made it even more scary, it was live.
Right. Right.
But you were calm as hell, and you just kind of flowed with it. I didn't know, like I said, we had Emily with us. I wish so much she was with us today. I should have thought about that. But we did that hour, and when it was over, I don't know about you, but I was pumped.
Yeah.
It was exciting.
Well, and it went by so quick, too.
Yeah.
I mean, it was an hour, but truly felt like it was 15, 20 minutes. We the show started, we all kind of, found the rhythm of it and took a deep breath, and the rest of it just happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you came on a couple of times, and I was thinking about this on the way here. Do you remember that time that you and I, and we had one other guest, and she was like a fortune teller or whatever, and we had to record in another studio, and you're like, Mr. Businessman, and then we've got somebody who's over here saying that she talks to ghosts and stuff. And I remember looking at you going, oh my God, what is he going to think of this?
Well, I was sitting there thinking, how did she come up with this pair? But it was a good show. I mean, every time we come on, we have a good time.
Yeah.
And that's really what it's about. You had a vision and an idea with the Facebook page that then grew into this. And, I've talked to many people who have been on the show over the years, and everybody who is a guest really has a great time doing it. And I think that's what it's all about.
Right. And that's what Tom said to me. Tom is my husband. He's our graphic designer. And he said, babe, he goes, I think that the show meant a lot more to people than what you think it did.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And so I'm gonna try not to cry today, but I might. But it was like, it's an experience.
It is.
And so that's what it boils down to. If BaaD Radio, disappeared, would it be missed? And I'm like, but then I realized that, some people got this opportunity to come into a studio and do a live radio show. And, that was the big thing.
Right.
Is the radio part.
Yeah, it's the radio part. It's being able to come and talk about, what their prospective business is doing and promote themselves. And it's just a really fun, cool experience that you've created here with the show.
Yeah. And what I found that I loved is watching people's face light up when they start talking about their business. And I wanted stories and the endorphin energy that starts to happen when they start to realize that, like somebody's actually listening to them.
Right.
And that what they say matters.
Right. Well, and it's cool, too, because, you'd always either post a full video or you post little spigots or cuts from it, and to go back and see people commenting on it or see people, it is those endorphins you're talking about to, it puts it all in perspective. Not only is it a cool experience being in here, but then when you see the post or the aftermath,
the reels,
the reels on it, and seeing people comment and seeing people say stuff about it, it's a really surreal experience as a whole.
Right. And actually, I know we're about to go to break, so we'll actually pick up on that because the real part of it has actually turned into what has been the most valuable
Right.
for the client. So we're going to go to break. When we get back, we'll have more BaaD Radio, so stay tuned. Oh, welcome back to BaaD Radio, and this portion of the show is brought to you by BaaD Street of Winter Park. Experience the future of fitness at BaaD Street in Winter Park. Lose weight, build muscle, tone your body in only 20 minutes a week. Visit baadystreet.us to sign up for your free trial.
We want to pump you up.
So I have to go there after here. But the cool thing about BaaD Street, have I told you about BaaD Street before? It's EMS, electromuscle stimulation. And so it's German technology. They came over here. They're I want to say, I just almost said Hans and Franz, but Stefan and Reiner are the owners, and they you kind of get hooked up into like a machine, and you go through a series of poses. Are you familiar with the TENS machine?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. So when you pose in this position, they like tense your muscles up.
Okay.
And you just get like a full body workout. You get sore. I mean, it's amazing. I've been doing it for a couple years, and I am very, very happy with the results I've got. Like I went paddleboarding with my sisters and hiking, and they do that all the time. And I thought for sure I was going to be dead sore, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so this is
so
working.
it's working. Right. That's awesome.
And I know Ken, our producer's doing it, and it's a really cool thing because if you're strapped for time, are you still doing the gym early in the morning?
Yeah, so I still do it early in the morning, and then there's certain days, or depending on how my days unfold, I try and go in the afternoon, break up my meeting time.
Yeah,
it's hard sometimes in the afternoon. I may have 4 or 5 hours of site walks and meetings, and then I got to go back to the desk and do estimates and invoicing and stuff. And sometimes I'll hit the gym in between those just to kind of get a mental reset.
Right.
And it really serves dividends in how I feel and my mental state and just being in a good frame of mind.
Well, Tom told me that Impact Electric did all the electric for that whole rebuild.
Yeah, so Lift 365, we just had a huge expansion that we did, and did all new lighting in there, LED high bay lights that we actually made dimmable to where they could have them all at their desired light outputs, as well as big rectangle hexagon section over
I know
the turf.
I see the hexagon ones because they put them over where we used to have the freeway.
Yes, yeah. So we still have 2 sections there, and we put a big new section over the expansion area where the turf is, and it was a really fun project for us. We were honored to be a part of it.
Yeah, so you guys are doing both commercial and residential.
Yeah, so for my whole career, we've done both commercial and residential, and that's nice because you get a nice flow of both. On the residential side, you get to talk with homeowners, and you get to hear their story and what they've been through in life. And there's a lot of emotions tied to the residential side of our business. We all work hard for what we do, and to be able to reinvest that in your property, not only is that a very cool, prideful thing as us homeowners know, but it's a real special thing to be a part of as a contractor, to be turned to during those projects on the residential side.
Oh, man, well, I love my Harry Potter wall.
Yeah,
you know that.
Well, anyone who's friends with you on Facebook knows that. But it's a really cool setup you have there, and it's fun to be. I enjoy the residential side. The commercial side I enjoy, but for different aspects. That's the commercial side of the business. People need that done to operate, generate revenue, generate, how they operate to earn their living. And so it brings its different challenges, but I enjoy both sides of our business.
Yeah, with commercial, I think about safety so much, lighting and like areas that wouldn't be lit, like warehouses, and then just overall safety for the people that are in there.
Right. Well, or even, during certain times of the year, you have employees that are leaving your place of business. So parking lot lighting, exterior building lighting. We had a customer up in Lake Mary that fought exterior lighting for many years, and they finally greenlit a project for us to redo it. And I get multiple pictures throughout the year on, how enjoyable it is now to exit the property
and
late
you have
at
to
night.
walk out to your car in pitch black.
Right, or turn your phone light on. Like, you shouldn't have to do that leaving your business, as an employee or business owner.
I would be scared.
Right, and even if it's not a safety aspect of another human, but just wildlife, et cetera, being around your cars. A well-lit parking lot is the safest parking lot.
Absolutely. So 5 years ago when you first came on, how big was Impact Electric? If you can remember, I mean, I know it's been
5 years ago, we were probably 3 to 5 employee company at that time.
And how are you? How much are you now?
We float now from 12 to 16 employees.
Yeah.
But we run lean and mean. We do a lot of volume. And, it's something that I take a lot of pride in on not being overstaffed. I want to keep everybody busy. I want to make sure our pipeline stays full. And running lean and mean allows me to compensate a little heavier, to my field crews.
Yeah.
Opposed to having, an office staff of 10 people. We have an office staff of 3.
Right. And it's like your pa and one other
yeah.
person.
and the wifey helps, here and there. And, I just take a lot of pride and focus on my field crews and making sure they're taken care of, because at the end of the day, they're the heartbeat and the pulse to our business.
And that's the hardest part. Like when and moving on from just business at a distance, turning to the BaaD Radio, now it's turned into my business.
Right.
And so I have a marketing firm now that is called Business at a Distance. It's called BaaD Marketing.
Yep.
I always have to explain to people it's BaaD, BaaD, which stands for business at, you know what I mean? Because people are like, why would you call yourself BaaD? I'm like, when the group started to call, hey, my BaaD family, and I fought that for the longest time. I'm like, no, we're not BaaD. We're Business at a Distance. And it just didn't work.
Right.
So I finally just gave up and embraced it. And I was like, you know what? Okay, so we're BaaD.
Yeah.
BaaD can mean good.
Yeah.
People think it's bad, so I was like, okay, but I still explain it to people when I meet them for the first time. So, but again, that whole thing, the COVID, the Facebook group, the radio show has now led to, my family and my family's income.
Right.
So Tommy's still working with KMDG. He's still doing the website, but he does website design for us.
Yep.
And we really are hyper-focusing on SEO. And the biggest problem that small businesses have is being seen. And so that is what I and Anna and Tom are really working hard on, is making sure that everybody gets a fair shot.
Right.
And when I say a fair shot, I'm talking about when people are doing Google searches for things, that we have our clients set up in a way to where they show up organically.
Right.
Not just through sponsored or AdWords or anything like that, but they are literally showing up. And working with Google, whew.
Yeah. Headache.
It's a fickle beast, I tell you what, because they change the rules all the time. But I've developed a relationship with them, if you can believe that or not, to where I've figured out ways of getting things done the right way. And getting people to show up, on Google searches, like you said, in top locations, under the sponsored, of course. And I've utilized the show a lot.
Imagine that, a small business owner developing a relationship.
Yeah.
That's what small business owners do. That's what we all do. We're all relationship driven. And that's what I believe really makes a small business owner special. We have a different outlook, vision, drive, and we are, all of us are very much relationship driven individuals.
Yeah. I've always admired your ability to stay focused on business and not allowing you have friendships and stuff like that, but business is business, and your friends are your friends, and you know what I mean? You've always said, well, this is business, it's not working, so we're gonna rotate to something else. Nothing personal, it's business.
Yeah, and unfortunately, sometimes you have to do that, and sometimes that's the biggest downfall to a small business owner, is having that blurred line of what's business and what's friendships. And at the end of the day, none of us do it for a hobby. I wish we did. I mean, and that doesn't mean we don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
We all love what we do, and we're all driven to do it and continue to do it. But we all do it because it's our livelihood and it's our profession.
Right.
And
that, there's another 15 seconds gone.
Yep.
All right. Hang on. We'll be right back with more BaaD Radio. Well, welcome back. And this portion of the show is brought to you by Ground Up Property Services, who we were talking about before. Do you know what your sprinkler system did last night? Probably not. So now is a good time to get your irrigation system serviced by Ground Up Property Services today. Be sure to ask Rick Hall with Ground Up about a water sensor too, so lawn doesn't get too much water. We kind of don't have to worry about that right now. Call 407-468-4295 or visit groundupinc.net. How do you keep your lawn watered? Because, I mean, how many acres do you have?
Mother Nature. I have no clue when it runs. Occasionally I'll walk out and it'll be on, but we only irrigate the front part of our property.
Well, Tom and I walk the neighborhood every single night, and that cold freeze did a number on a lot of people's lawns, but we see a lot of them coming back and looking better.
Yeah, I think if you have, the more mature landscaping for sure has a better fighting chance than some of the, infant stage or lower ground cover stuff. But I think we're definitely going to see in the next month or so what survived and what didn't, if you haven't already.
And then we're going to be entering hurricane season, which I'm like,
yeah, I just saw something the other day. I guess they have a new feature now on the hurricane cone. That we should see this season. It's supposed to make it more accurate or something.
As far as like where it's going to hit.
Yeah,
and stuff?
Yeah. I just saw someone post on it yesterday. So
right,
I guess it's
just
here.
Don't hit us,
right?
Okay,
right.
I can't handle any more hurricane damage. Yeah, Ian just about killed us. Was it Milton, the one that took out all your trees?
I think it was. I want to say it was Milton.
Milton or Helena.
Yeah.
Those were those two big ones that came through with lots of wind. But going back to the show, so what's come from the show is the content reels.
Yep.
Okay, because what's so valuable about them is like you and I are sitting here talking about our businesses. And as we're talking about our businesses, we're saying like so many key words that like Google Ads like puts together key phrases, and you have to pay.
Right.
You have to pay money to utilize those words.
Yep.
So you're paying for words, right? But when we do a content reel and I post it on somebody's Google page,
right.
I'm using the script and the video because as of right now, Google's little crawlers can't get into the video. So it's important to post the script. So you're taking authentic words that are coming out of that business owner's mouth and posting it so that Google can see it. And then that is boosting their SEO. And it's something that like without BaaD Radio here, we still can do that. Like I have the cameras, I have all the things. I can still set up like interviews. I mean, I've even thought about like just bringing it back as a podcast.
Yeah.
Because we have an office now in Longwood, and I can make like a cute little corner. But right now, I'm not doing anything.
Right.
But that's the value. So for like you on your last show, I got 30 amazing content reels that I would post on your social media.
Right.
So I don't post them one after another,
Right.
I'll do like a regular post.
Yeah, you blended it in with them, yeah.
But it allowed people to get to know you.
Right.
As
And
a
you got to
business
see, and you can see, it's not just, a paragraph with a picture. You got, like you said, you got to see the reel. They got to see the business owner, see that person speak, and it's really valuable to have those.
Yeah, and a lot of, and that's one thing that we've had everybody on the show from like high-end lawyers to little guys that make little trinkets and trash at like farmers markets and like using those reels has been like just something that has been super, super valuable. But there's not very many places that people can go to get that kind of content.
Correct.
And that's where the value came in.
Right.
And so right now, it's great to hear it on the radio and stuff like that. And I have gotten calls. Like there's been numerous occasions where I've gotten a message or something. It was like, hey, that IT guy that was on your show, or I had somebody call me, that personal injury lawyer you had, can I get his, you know what I mean? So those things do happen.
Yep.
But the content reel, like I had somebody, a doctor on, and, he was talking about stem cell. And he ended up getting a client that was, spending up to $15,000-$20,000. Yeah. And so the reels are the key. And so that's what I have to learn, figure out how I'm going to keep that type of interaction going.
Yeah. Well, especially for the marketing side of what you're doing, because but I think it's a really exciting time for you. I'm excited for you.
Oh, thanks, Zach.
And, it's just really cool as, you evolve over time as a business and as a business owner and continue to make changes or just pivot and try new things.
Yeah.
You
Well, it was, like I said, I had one of those aha moments. I'm not an overly religious person, but, I was driving down Winter Springs Boulevard and I just wasn't feeling happy. I'm like, what is my problem?
Right.
I was always so motivated to go out and get sponsors because putting this together is expensive.
Uh-huh.
And I wasn't feeling that sense of desire. And that's when I'm like, I'm going to sound cheesy, but that's when God just said, maybe it's time to take a break.
Right.
And I'm like, you know what? I think you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Am I sad? Yeah, I'm a little sad, but I'm not sad. I'm sad about talking to people like you.
Right.
I mean, I've had some horrible interviews before. Like one time I had an interview with somebody that made concrete slabs. And I was like, what am I doing? And that is just not worth it. Because, how much can you talk about concrete slabs, right? So, but for Impact Electric, so what are some of the things that you're seeing for the future?
We're excited for the future. We're still growing. Like we talked about when I first came on the show, I think we had 1 truck at the time. We're up to 7 trucks now.
It's so awesome.
We're organically growing. We're enjoying the ride. We have a phenomenal set of field crew leads and field guys, that are out there. And I get many texts from homeowners and business owners, how professional the guys are, how respectful they are. And, some things that really catch them off guard is how much fun the guys have.
Yeah. I've had the opportunity to go out there and take pictures, and it was fun.
Yeah.
And that first time I was freezing my butt off. But...
Yeah. It was, but they have fun. They joke around. They have a good time. At the end of the day, it's still work. You see some of these videos online and people talking about, plumbers, HVAC guys, electricians. If you got kids, get them in the trades, which is great. We need younger generations in our trade.
Yeah.
But it's still work. At the end of the day, it's still hard-nosed, blue-collar work.
Yeah.
And they have to understand that. Do we have huge shortages in our labor force in sub-trades, being those 3 I just listed? Absolutely, we do.
Yeah, we do.
But you got to be able to put the boots on and go to work for a hard-nosed day.
Well,
it's not a day at the fair.
Yeah, or a day sitting on your computer writing code or playing video games or anything like that. And that's where I think a lot of it is that everybody wants to get into these computer games and stuff like that. But I think AI is going to be changing the whole face of that. And I see a pivot back to the blue collar stuff because AI is going to be taking a lot of these positions that these kids are going to school for.
Well, and I think that they're going to have to, the kids who are going to school for it now, they're going to have to find ways to pivot and utilize AI, be more efficient in how does that play into what they're going to school for, because the biggest thing I think with younger generations, if it's blue collar, white collar jobs, doesn't matter. It's, you have to get the experience and you have to put the time in to grow within the industry. It's not instantaneous. It's not as soon as you get the job that you're at where you want to be at. I mean, I think you and I can both speak on the evolution within our businesses in the last 5-6 years. It didn't happen in year 1.
No.
It doesn't happen that fast. It doesn't happen in month 1.
You know what? I thought about another story too, and this was when your youngest was first born, and there was a guy that was spamming all of the Facebook pages, and you flagged him, and you're like, "Why is this guy? Keep an eye on this guy."
Right?
Do you remember him?
Vaguely.
He was sitting there going, I bought a house. I need a plumber. I need this. I need this. I need this. I need this.
Yes.
And then he was doing it into all the other groups, and you brought him to my attention, and we laughed so hard at some of the stuff that he was posting. But then I reported him to all the other groups, and he got booted out of every single one of them because what he was doing, he was fishing for your customer or your client or for your employees.
Right. Yes.
That guy. I haven't seen him in a while. All right, we'll be back with more BaaD Radio, so stay tuned. And welcome back to the very last portion of BaaD Radio, brought to you by Frogger's Grill and Bar. Looking for a place to go with friends or meet new ones? Then you're looking for Frogger's Grill and Bar. And with 4 great locations, there is bound to be one near you. Oviedo, Mount Dora, Apopka, and Altamont Springs. And be sure to check out Frogger's amazing menu where everything is fresh, never frozen. Frogger's Grill and Bar. Hop in with food and fun.
Yeah, boy.
I'm hungry now.
Yeah, I know. Frogger's is good. And I mean, there's certain people that have supported the show, like you, like Ground Up, like Frogger's. I mean, Premier Couple Superstore was my sponsor for the longest time, too. So I really, Forge IT Consulting, Body Street. I've had some of the most amazing sponsors over the year, and I can't thank them enough because none of this, I wouldn't have been able to do any of this without sponsors believing in me and believing in what we were doing here. And so that's really special because, like I said, without sponsors, there would have been no BaaD Radio in the first place because I know I couldn't afford it.
Yeah, but I think that's a testament to who you are and the vision you had and what this meant to all of us who were a part of it along the way.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you got to be a part of it. And like I said, that conversation I had with you and you're like, I'll be your sponsor. I mean, that was the call that was like, all right, I can make this happen. This is how much it's going to cost. And what I think back to is that you would have thought that JVC would have given me a deal as an employee. They didn't. It was all about the dollars and cents.
Right.
And I am so happy to be out of that corporate BS world and be in a place where I can hire an employee or I can fire a client if I don't like the way they talk to me. I am not just a number, because I love radio. Radio is one of those things that it gets in your blood.
Right.
And once it's in your blood, it's really hard because you just always tend to go back to it, especially once you get into something like this, which is called spoken word. But to companies like iHeart, we're just a number. We're just, you know what I mean?
But I think there's a different way to look at that too. And, by them not offering you, a break or deals or whatever, it gave you more control. They didn't have any,
No.
And I think that's important too. You found a way to do it how you did it. And I think that's special.
Yeah. As a brokered show, meaning an independent show that you pay for the airtime, you have creative control. Now you do have to work but within the perimeters.
Right.
Like I almost didn't get Premier Couple Superstore approved for this station, but their commercials were so vanilla it didn't even matter. But so you did have that. But I meant for even for a small radio company like JVC, you remember my crazy manager.
Yep.
You weren't a fan, but I mean she didn't care. She just looked at it as, oh, we're selling another brokered show.
Right.
It's Angela, but no, we're not going to give her a break. I paid just as much as everybody else because all it really came down to is dollars and cents.
Right.
And as a business owner now, if I want to give somebody a break, I can.
Right.
And I can.
Right.
And if I want to give somebody a payment plan, I can.
Right.
If I'm comfortable, have I been burned? Yeah.
Yeah. We
But
all
again,
have.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's lessons learned. You figure out ways to get around it. I mean, like I said, you've been in business longer than I have, so I'm sure you've
but
dealt with yours.
like I was saying, to not have someone who has a finger over you or input. When I first started, I was offered a private loan by somebody, and I didn't take it. About 6 months in being in business, they called me and said, "Hey, I need you at Orlando Executive. I'm sending the jet for you. I need you up at my vacation house." And I said, I'm not leaving on Sunday. And they go, "No, the jet's going to be there." I said, "I'm taking my wife and kids to breakfast."
Yeah.
And they said, "Is this why you didn't take my money?" I said, "This is exactly why."
Right.
Because if I would have taken that loan, I wouldn't have had a choice. I would have had to be there.
Right.
And I would have been stepping on the plane to go.
Yeah, we would have been a tool.
Right, exactly. And then they're pulling strings over you. So, that independence is quite liberating.
It
really
is quite liberating. I did not appreciate how much work it is to be a business owner when it comes to paying employees and making sure you have all your taxes done right. And invoicing and all insurance and everything like that. So I learned a whole lot real fast.
Yeah, and even if you're not doing it, as in you still have the invoicing, you have the payroll, you have all that stuff, and you may have a payroll company, insurance broker, all that stuff. but you still have to execute it. You still have your hand in it at the macro level of doing it, and it's a lot. We got to wear a lot of hats.
Yeah, there's an amazing lady that's in my BNI. Her name's Allison O'Baker, and I hired her, and she sat me down and she taught me QuickBooks, and she helped me set up budgets, and so her knowledge was invaluable to the way that I manage my business now, because before I was using spreadsheets. I don't know any better.
Yeah.
I thought spreadsheets were great, but now like I have forecasts. I have a P&L.
Right.
I was like, wow, this is cool. We made money.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So I was we had a very successful first year, and this year is, it started off, the beginning of 2026 was hard. It really was. I don't know if it was for you.
It was a weird start to the year.
It was.
And I think that everybody's so ready for the economy to just break loose. Everybody's thinking it's around the next turn. It's around the next turn. It's around the next corner. But it was a very strange start to the year this year.
But I feel like it's starting to, I feel BaaD Marketing is starting to find its groove and feel where and be where we belong.
Yeah, and I think every year it's very similar to that, as in, okay, when are we going to find that groove? Sometimes you find it in the second week of January.
Right.
Sometimes it's the third week of March, and you feel like you're scratching and clawing, to get to the third week of March, and then before you know it, it's Thanksgiving and Christmas.
I know, right?
So it's just how that year goes and when you find your groove, you know?
Well, BaaD Radio has been quite a ride. It's funny. One of my biggest pet peeves is when people call it a podcast, and it doesn't matter. But to me, a radio show is different than a podcast, because radio is radio. A podcast doesn't go out on an FM and AM. I said to Tommy earlier, I said, do you think in 10 years people are going to listen to AM, FM radio other than for emergency broadcast system and stuff? And he said, yeah. And I was like, I don't know.
Well, people still listen to records.
True.
So I think that it'll still happen. It may be in a different form, or maybe not, every day in some households, you know what I mean? But I think it's still going to be around. I think people will still turn it on.
Yeah. I even still like listening to AM sometimes.
Yeah.
Because it gives you that old nostalgia kind of feel.
Yeah.
And there's smaller stations that you can't even hear them on FM. It's on AM only. But I do hope that radio sticks around, because it, like I said, it's just, you get to know the talent that's on the air. You get used to your shows. You get used to what you're listening to.
Right.
So, like I said, it gets in your blood.
Yeah.
So, well, as we wrap that down to the last 2 minutes, go ahead, tell everybody all of your contact information and how to find you and all your services.
So the best way to find me is, you could search us, Impact Electric. The best way to get a hold of me is to call me. That's typically the best first point of contact that I like to do. All of our other stuff that you guys will find, done by BaaD Marketing. They handle all of our online presence. And, we handle all aspects of residential and commercial. There's no job too big or too small.
Yeah, their website is Impact Electric USA, and it's got the testimonials on there. It's got their contact information. Just about anything that you might need to know. Like I said, especially the contact information.
Yep.
So Zach, thanks for being on here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm going to plug BaaD Marketing. So BaaD Marketing, like I said, BaaD stands for Business at a Distance. We are a small marketing firm. There's 5 total of us, and we design websites. We have an in-house graphic design, so it's not just all done through AI. We have somebody that actually has been designing for decades and decades. So we do graphic design, web design, and programming. We do social media management. We do content creation, because we are able to come on site and actually take videos and get that content, so you don't have to try to do it with your iPhone. And now we're really diving deep into SEO. So using your Google page is something that's been ideal for getting you noticed on Google searches, which is very important. But for everybody that's been listening over the years, thank you so much. And I just love you. Thanks, Zach. And all right, this is BaaD Radio signing out.